Constantinople, 1437. A once great empire stands on the brink of ruin. Outside the gates of its fabled capital, the enemy is gathering. A young man holds the fate of Constantinople and its emperor in his hands. As the crisis mounts, the city of dreams becomes a city of nightmares. The glittering days of Constantinople's Eastern Christian Empire are over. Its riches are all but lost. Its trade routes cut off. Its emperor beleaguered. Only the mighty city itself remains. And now this too is threatened. Each day, the enemy camps grow larger. Once the eastern hub of the vast Holy Roman Empire, Constantinople's influence has been shrinking for 1,000 years. In its wake, the forces of the Muslim Ottomans have grown in strength. Now, they have the city in a stranglehold.
Das Byzantinische Reich war auf eine Insel zusammengeschrumpft und das war die Stadt Konstantinopel. Und es war eigentlich nur eine Frage der Zeit, wann die Türken es erobern würden. Byzanz war zu schwach, um sich aus eigener Kraft zu helfen und war auf den Westen angewiesen.
The West responds to Constantinople's plight. The Pope in Italy sends his young emissary, Nicholas Cusanus, with a message of help. But there's a price. The church at Constantinople has been separated from European Christianity for 700 bitter years. Now the Pope insists it must give up its independence and return to the fold.
Da dies die Conditio sine qua non war, ihr müsst euch anschließen, erst dann helfen wir euch, nicht? War natürlich die Zwickmühle doppelt. Ja? Einerseits der Druck, ihr kriegt nur Hilfe, wenn, und andererseits der Druck an sich, der von der osmanischen Eingreisung ausging. Die Lage der letzten byzantinischen Kaiser war im Grunde verzweifelt.
If anyone can succeed in overcoming the centuries of hatred and distrust that divide Constantinople from Rome, it's Nicholas Cusanus. A devout churchman, he's also an exceptional scholar, lawyer, scientist, and diplomat. On his shoulders rests the future of what was once known as the city of the world's desire, a city much admired and much envied. Poised at the crossroads between Europe and Asia, Constantinople controlled the gateway between East and West. A natural fortress, it was the perfect site for a capital. In Constantinople's sheltered deep-water harbor, the Golden Horn, ships gathered from all over the known world. In the Middle Ages, land routes around the Mediterranean were slow and hazardous. Most travel was by sea. And it is by sea that Cusanus sets out from Italy on his fateful voyage. Stopping off at Crete to collect 300 archers, a gift for the emperor. It is 2 long months before he arrives at the fabled city.
Well, in the late Byzantine period, as the city declined, the travelers coming from Western Europe, as when they visit Constantinople, they describe it as a series of villages rather than giving the impression of a large cosmopolitan city. And as a series of villages, each of these sort of nodes within the city was a major institution, a house of one of the wealthy nobles or a monastery.
It's in a monastery that Cusanus is invited to stay when he finally arrives in Constantinople. He is well respected as a churchman, even by those in the rival Orthodox Church. It's his first visit to the city, and he intends to combine his mission with some research. The scholarly traditions of the East are often suppressed in Europe, but here the whole world of Oriental knowledge and ideas will be at his feet. Cusanus is a collector of manuscripts. He already has a treasured map of Constantinople as his guide. Many of these priceless ancient manuscripts still exist. Carefully preserved, these are our links to the world of the past. Here in the University of Dusseldorf vault, one of the finest surviving illustrations is the Buondelmonte map. Hand-drawn in the 15th century, it's our best guide to how Constantinople looked 600 years ago. Although faded, the map is still miraculously clear. It's so detailed that more than 100 of the buildings it records can still be recognized today.
Die Konstantinopel-Ansicht ist insofern außergewöhnlich, als es zum einen die erste vogelperspektivische Darstellung von Konstantinopel ist, also eine moderne Sicht sozusagen noch. Dann war der Illustrator offensichtlich auch in Konstantinopel. Zumindest kannte er sich sehr gut aus. Das heißt, er konnte sehr viele Details ziemlich genau wiedergeben, wie sie eben in der Zeit 1480er, 1490er Jahre tatsächlich bestanden. Es wird hier also ein bestimmter Bauzustand fixiert, über den wir sonst aus anderen Karten nicht so genau Bescheid wissen.
A major historical project is underway in Istanbul. Its aim is to create a computer reconstruction of the medieval city. Archaeologist Jan Kostenak makes helicopter flights over the area, looking for evidence that can only be seen from above. Jan compares what he sees with his copy of the Buondelmonte map.
We are approaching the sea walls of Constantinople and also the former area of the Great Palace. We are somewhere near, it's not exactly shown on the map. One can see Hagia Sophia, which was built by the Emperor Justinian I in 532.
As Jan flies over the city, Buondelmonte's map comes to life. Less obvious in the modern city are the ancient defenses. Clearly a major concern in the 15th century.
Befestigungsanlagen sind natürlich immer interessant in den Zeiten, wo man sich ständig auf kriegerische Auseinandersetzungen vorbereiten musste. Gerade mit dem Islam war ja dann das 16. Jahrhundert, was anbrach, noch eine Zeit ständiger Auseinandersetzungen bis eben zur Seeschlacht von Lepanto. Insofern hatten die Italiener mit Sicherheit starkes Interesse daran, wo waren die starken Punkte der Befestigung, wo standen Kanonen. Was müsste man beachten, wenn man denn Konstantinopel wieder angreifen wollte?
Approaching the land side of the city, there are clear signs that Constantinople was built as a fortress. The city's legendary walls seem to stretch forever. All told, they're more than 20 kilometers long.
We can see the double system of fortification of Constantinople, which was built in the early 5th century and is shown on one of Gwendol Monti's version of the City of View.
The walls secured the land approach to the city, but the sea was not neglected. An immense handmade iron chain, 750 meters long, protected the harbor. Weighing about 30 tons, it was the ultimate barrier to a hostile navy. The chain's weight seemed to have been supported on barges and buoys. Whenever danger threatened, it was swung across the entrance to the Golden Horn, closing it completely. Lying just beneath the surface of the water, this was an obstacle no medieval ship could cross. Together with the wall on the land side, the sea chain made Constantinople a hard city to conquer. But even these robust defenses will not be enough to save the city from the sustained Ottoman attack that threatens it now.
Once the killers were ready, the Poles were taken from their cells one by one to an interrogation room, where their names were checked against the list of those to be murdered.
A 6-part landmark series using secrets from recently sourced files.
But it had indeed been Stalin who had signed the document that led to the murders.
Laying bare a history Stalin wanted to hide.
An iron fence has come down around them.
World War II, behind closed doors. Tonight, 8:30 on SBS 1.
This is an appeal for Médecins Sans Frontières. We believe that people have a right to medical assistance, whoever and wherever they are. To make this possible, we need money. Our doctors and nurses are volunteers. They travel to some of the most volatile parts of the world, where natural or man-made disasters have pushed people to the edge of survival. A monthly donation from you will ensure that Médecins Sans Frontières can keep working on the medical front lines. $13 a month over 12 months will help us buy an emergency surgical kit for life-saving operations, or vaccinate 600 children against deadly measles. Help bring medical assistance to those who need it most. Please give $13 a month. Call 1-800-774-044 or visit msf.org.au/donate today. Thank you.
As Cusanus arrives at the Emperor's palace, he is conscious that there is no time to lose. But although the splendors of the imperial past are long gone, the slow formalities of the court remain, even for an emissary bearing the personal seal of the Pope. Despite the urgency of his mission, Cusanus must wait for his audience with the Emperor. He senses that there is more than protocol behind the delay. The tension within the court is palpable, its suspicion and hostility barely disguised. Outside in the streets, there are signs of the city's decline. Gone are the rich merchants, the fine ladies, and the exuberant throng who once made Constantinople famous. In their place, poverty and ruins. The city still bore the scars of the disastrous attack by the Fourth Crusade, more than 200 years before. The Venetians, then a considerable power themselves, were jealous of Constantinople's wealth and independence. In an extraordinary political coup, they persuaded the European crusaders, then heading for Jerusalem, to alter their plan and target their fellow Christians in Constantinople instead. Aided by traitors within the city, they poured through the gates in a devastating surprise attack. An orgy of barbaric vandalism followed. Centuries of art and architecture were destroyed or stolen.
Der sogenannte Vierte Kreuzzug war ja alles andere als ein Kreuzzug. Es war ja einer der übelsten Plünderungszüge, den sich das christliche Abendland jemals geleistet hat, und zwar gegen Glaubensbrüder, gegen Christen. Es ging also darum, die mächtige Stadt am Bosporus klein zu machen.
Much of the Crusaders' loot was stored here, in the magnificent 12th century Pantocrator Monastery. The Pantocrator consists of 2 linked churches and a chapel. Its scale is astonishing. Only the Hagia Sophia is larger. Although its interior is now in need of restoration, it was one of the few buildings whose fabric survived the ravages of the invaders. But its interior was desecrated. The Venetians had no respect for the Byzantine Christians or their religious icons.
With the Latin conquest of Constantinople in 1204, the monastery was in such a prime piece of real estate within the city that it was taken over by the Venetians and became their headquarters for the period of the Latin occupation. Some of the objects from the monastery ended up in Venice, with no surprise, I suppose. But they seem to have taken pretty good care of the monastery in this period and used it as their official headquarters.
It was more than 50 years before the Venetian crusaders were driven out of the city. By that time, the rift between the European and Eastern branches of the church was deeper than ever. Constantinople was never the same again. Its glory was tarnished, its vulnerability proved for the first time, its fabulous artistic heritage all but destroyed. Jan Kostanek and his colleague Tayfun Oner are creating a computer image of the city's golden age, before the Crusaders struck. This is the ruin of the great palace as it is today, and as it once was. The palace, built by the first Christian Emperor Constantine, was one of the wonders of the age. This was a palace designed above all to impress. Within these immense walls, guests were received amid consummate luxury and unparalleled splendor.
The aim of our project, which is called Byzantium 1200, is to make a scientifically accurate 3D model of the historical Istanbul. And I started in 1994. I visited Italy in 1990, and I saw a scale model of the historical Rome about 2,000 years ago, and I was very impressed by this model. And I thought that a similar model should be created with Istanbul.
More of the Great Palace now survives below ground than above it. In the remains of the palace cellars, Tayfun and Jan continue the painstaking task of bringing medieval Constantinople to life. Their work is based on meticulous measurement. Complex data from existing remains, contemporary documents, and the work of archaeologists and scientists from all over the world are fed into the computer's modeling system. It's a remarkable blend of all our existing knowledge. Slowly, the wonders of the past take shape. By 1437, the great palace already lies in ruins. Cusanus comes to the emperor's new, less glorious home. Cusanus is here to invite the emperor to meet with the Pope in Italy. By accepting, the emperor, who is also head of the Orthodox Church, gains European help to fight the Ottomans, but loses the century-old battle with the Church in Rome. The atmosphere at court is electric. Many consider an alliance with Rome as little better than defeat by the Ottomans. Peace with the Church of Rome may stave off the Ottoman invasion, but may also bring full-scale rebellion at home. The emperor decides not to decide. The delay enables Cusanus to explore the city and to visit Constantinople's most famous attraction. When Cusanus sees it, the Hagia Sophia is already 900 years old, yet somehow undamaged by time, wars, or the Crusaders. It's the center of the Orthodox faith, the coronation church of the Byzantine emperors and Constantinople's most glorious remaining jewel. Today, the interior of the Hagia Sophia, now a museum, is still breathtaking. The famous dome, 31 meters wide, seems to float 56 meters above the ground. It took only 5 years and 10 months to complete the Hagia Sophia. Its walls were covered in the finest mosaics. After 1,500 years, their restoration is now a priority. For this work, you need a steady hand, a patient disposition, and a head for heights.
Kubbenin geneli 6. yüzyıl mozaikleriyle kaplı. 6. yüzyıl mozaiklerinin gene hepsi cam mozaik. Altın ve gümüş olarak gördüğümüz yansıma yapan mozaikler bir cam üzerine altın varak, onun üzerine bir cam yapıştırılma şekliyle yapılmış. Aynı şekilde gümüş mozaikler de öyle. Cam küp üzerine gümüş varak ve üzerine bir cam yapıştırmak şeklinde yapılmış. Geri kalan gördüğümüz mavi, yeşil ve kırmızı mozaikler sadece cam mozaikler. 6. yüzyıl mozaiklerinin önemli özelliği çok düzenli bir biçimde yapılmış olmaları. Santimetre kareye 180 tane düşecek şekilde yansıması çok özellikle düşünülerek yapılmış mozaiklerdir. Özellikle dizilmiş mozaiklerdir.
The original dome of the Hagia Sophia was damaged when an earthquake struck during construction. But disaster was turned to triumph. The rebuilding not only increased the size of the dome, but incorporated innovative force deflection techniques throughout the whole building. Those 6th century calculations have kept the Hagia Sophia safe through almost 1,500 years of earthquakes. At the University of Bern, Professor Volker Hoffmann and his team are trying to uncover the techniques the builders used. Even with today's technology, the design would be a daunting challenge. Yet the Hagia Sophia was built in the early 6th century, hundreds of years before the development of modern methods. How then did the architects do it? The original building plans have never been found. There's very little material for the team to rely on. The only thing they knew for certain was that the mighty church would have been designed as an image of the spiritual world.
Die Hauptaufgabe, die wir uns bei unserem Forschungsprojekt gestellt haben, war die Rekonstruktion des ursprünglichen Entwurfs der Hagia Sophia, und zwar des geometrischen Entwurfs. Wir steigen also in die Arbeit der Architekten in dem Moment ein, wo sie ihre Skizzen gemacht haben, wo sich das Denken geklärt hat, wo herausgekommen ist, dass sie einen riesigen Kuppelbau wollen und so weiter. Aber jetzt müssen sie das Ganze geometrisch klären, damit es überhaupt baubar wird.
Hoffman's team used sophisticated laser techniques to measure and model the building. With the help of computers, they were able to uncover the underlying design. It was a simple yet ingenious motif. An analemma, an astronomical figure combining a square and a circle.
Das ist in der Tat die Basisfigur, aus der die gesamte Hagia Sophia sowohl im Grundriss und im Aufriss entworfen worden ist. Die mussten natürlich von den Architekten etwas erweitert werden. Diese Erweiterungen geschehen aber ausschließlich mit Zirkel und Lineal und fügen dieser Grundfigur nichts Neues hinzu.
The design not only gives the building its stability, it accounts for its awe-inspiring proportions. For the Hagia Sophia was designed to underline not just the glory of God, but the connection between God and the empire.
Wir müssen uns vorstellen, dass die Hagia Sophia ein kaiserlicher Bau war und die Kirche des Patriarchen. Also das sind die beiden, sie verkörpern die beiden von Gott gegebenen, eingesetzten Mächte, die die Welt regieren. Und daran hatten sich die Architekten zu halten. Was kam nun in Frage? Es konnte eigentlich nur, wie das im Orient ja immer und vielfach war, es konnte eigentlich nur ein kosmischer Bau in Frage kommen. Ein Bau, der den Kosmos abbildet.
The minarets that now rise up from the four corners of the Hagia Sophia are later Ottoman additions. Without them, the original looked more like this. For medieval scholars like Cusanus, the relation between cosmology, geometry, and architecture was natural. And the Hagia Sophia was a deeply satisfying combination of the concrete with the spiritual.
In an age where the Earth was the center of the universe, Copernicus had another theory.
We actually live on a small rock orbiting a large, flaming gas star.
At odds with the Church, successive scholars would sacrifice their reputations, freedom, and even their lives.
The Copernican revolution teaches that things are not as they seem.
Meet the mavericks who discovered the moving Earth. Sunday, 7:30 on SBS 1.
You want to keep warm when you're feeling chilled, but you don't want to raise your heating bill. Blankets are okay, but they can slip and slide. And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Introducing the Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves. The Snuggie keeps you totally warm and gives you the freedom to use your hands. So now you can work the remote or read a book in total warmth and comfort. Snuggie is made of ultra-soft, thick, luxurious fleece with oversized sleeves. Super large, one size fits all, so you can stay warm from head to toe. No more cold feet. And with Snuggie, you can get up and still stay warm. Snuggie is perfect for the entire family, perfect for chilly outdoor evenings, staying cozy and warm at sporting events, and it's ideal for those drafty study rooms. The Snuggie is machine washable, so you'll get years of warmth and comfort. Call Global Shop Direct now or go online to order your very own Ultra Soft, Ultra Warm Snuggie with this special limited TV offer. The luxurious Snuggie comes in 2 cozy colours, royal blue and burgundy. Call now and use your credit card and we'll include the very handy press and open book light free. Stop the clock. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll include an extra Snuggie and book light free. That's right, buy one, get one free. And if for any reason you're not happy with your Snuggie, send it back within 30 days for a full refund of the purchase price less delivery. That's 2 Snuggies and 2 book lights with this special TV offer. Call or go online now. Stay snugly warm this winter with your Snuggie.
Cusanus was never able to wonder at Constantinople in its earlier glory. But one awe-inspiring structure was still firmly in place at the time of his visit, for very practical reasons.
We are approaching the aqueduct of Valence, which was probably built in the later 4th century. It brought in the water from the region of Rize, which is about 120 kilometers west of Istanbul. And the aqueduct provides water not only for the daily needs, but also for the great late antique Thermae and Nymphae.
Water supply was potentially the Achilles heel of the ancient city, as it was almost entirely surrounded by sea. But over the centuries, Constantinople had constructed an ingenious system. The aqueduct brought water in. 400 kilometers of pipes took it through the city, and a system of underground tanks stored it safely out of sight.
Hinzu kommt natürlich, dass eine Wasserleitung, die von draußen an die Stadt herangeführt ist, immer natürlich eine Gefahr bedeutet. Und es gab auch Zeiten, wo diese eine Leitung gekappt war. Und da war natürlich die Versorgung, die Eigenversorgung durch die Zisternen einfach lebensnotwendig.
Buried beneath the city, these tanks rival the architecture above. The Yerbatan Saray, or Sunken Palace, is huge. 140 meters by 73 meters, with 336 columns. The elegant cavern with its ornate pillars may seem over-elaborate for a water tank. But when the city was faced with a prolonged attack, these cisterns would mean the difference between life and death, victory and defeat. It's the prospect of just such a siege that Emperor John VIII faces as he struggles with his dilemma. His inclination as statesman is to accept the Pope's invitation and try, with his help, to fight off the Ottomans. But he is also head of his church, which would be humiliated by the compromise. The opposition in his court is becoming increasingly entrenched. A leading admiral has already stated publicly, better the turban than the mitre of the Pope in the city. While the emperor agonizes, Cusanus waits. Each day he walks the city streets, looking in vain for the statues and elegant buildings that once graced the city. Even the Hippodrome, once a famous landmark, stands half in ruins, reflecting the city's gloom. The excited crowds who once flocked here for entertainment are no more than a memory.
The
Mit der ersten Hälfte des 15. Jahrhunderts war die Stadt ja weitestgehend verödet und der Hippodrom war auch im Grunde ein öder Platz. Wir erfahren zwar aus den Reiseberichten, dass vieles noch erhalten war von den Sitzreihen, von der Sendorne, aber Ritterspiele oder Turniere oder Wagenrennen haben dort schon lange nicht mehr stattgefunden.
Gambling was once a favorite pastime. Archaeologists working at the Hippodrome site found relics from the days when this was the entertainment center of Constantinople. This is a sort of ancient pinball machine, mimicking a racecourse with 4 horses. Its remnants are now almost invisible. But once, the Hippodrome dominated the city. Completed in the 4th century, it was the Emperor Constantine's most grandiose showpiece, a demonstration of the might and wealth of the empire and its new eastern capital. More than 400 meters long, it was planned to the last detail. The emperor's box was even connected via a tunnel to the palace. For Tafin and Yan, the reconstruction presented particular challenges. There are no surviving images of the original building to act as their guide. But remnants of the building still exist. From these, and archaeologists' work on the excavation, precise measurements could be fed into the computer. These were then compared with the various contemporary written accounts that describe the Hippodrome at the height of its fame. Did they agree?
We wondered if the historical records were correct, because historical records tell that it could hold 30,000 people. And I used my 3D model. I measured all the sitting places of the Hippodrome and divided it with 50 or 60 centimeters for each person for a comfortable seat. And we divided that length of the tribunes, and we got exactly about 33,000, which is in very good, it fits very good with the historical records.
Topped by the 4 bronze horses of the famous quadrille, later looted by the Venetians, the Hippodrome was an arena where spectators gathered to watch all the great imperial events: coronations, celebrations, chariot racing, even executions. Today, the central obelisks are lonely reminders of the past. As time passes, and the emperor still makes no decision, Nicholas Cusanus makes his own diplomatic moves. He makes contact with leaders of the Orthodox Church. One of them is Archbishop Bessarion of Nicaea, a close advisor to the emperor. The 2 men belong to opposing branches of the church, yet they have much in common. Bessarion too wants to see the whole church reunited and Constantinople saved from the Muslim invaders. The city is a scholar's dream. Its unique position has given it access to the East. For centuries, there's been a trade, not just in goods, but in ideas, inventions, skills, and languages. The libraries burst with rare manuscripts of all kinds: medical, scientific, and theological. These are wonders that Cusanus has heard of, but hardly hoped to see. Many of these have been viewed with suspicion by authorities in the West, but Cusanus has an open, inquiring mind, and on this brief visit, he wants to learn all he can. Bessarion demonstrates instruments and texts for making celestial calculations. Astronomy is a special interest of Cusanus. In the streets of Constantinople, word of the looming crisis has spread. Life here is hard. The Ottoman armies have already cut off much of the city's trade. Those who can afford to leave have done so. Only the poor remain. The weakened state of the city is one of the factors the emperor must consider. He can mobilize only 7,000 soldiers, 2,000 of them mercenaries. The gathering Ottoman armies number more than 100,000 men. The city may be a fortress, but these are frightening odds. The confrontation here in Constantinople is part of a reordering of the balance between the Christian and Muslim worlds. For the first time, the West is taking Islam seriously. Cusanus has bought a rare translation of the Quran, part of his growing determination to study the religion. He's in the vanguard of a growing movement among Western scholars.
In einigen der westlichen Intellektuellen war die Erkenntnis gereift, dass man mit militärischen Mitteln und bloßen Vernichtungsfantasien nicht mehr weiterkam, sondern sich für die Theologie, für die Religion der anderen Seite, die ja so erfolgreich war. Nicht? Der Islam rückte ja zumindest in Griechenland auf dem Balkan vor, in Gestalt der Türken. Spanien war es andersherum, aber der so erfolgreich war, mit dessen Religion intensiver zu beschäftigen und vielleicht doch auch zu einer Art Dialog und einem Austausch zu kommen. Und diese Idee hat Cusanus, der immer in Kategorien des Harmonisierens dachte, der Einheit dachte, offensichtlich fasziniert.
The Quran is only one of the rare manuscripts Cusanus bought in Constantinople. Much of his unique collection survives to this day. But even as he studies and waits for word from the palace, Cusanus discovers a new threat to his mission. The Pope, too, had enemies at home. There were many in the Roman Church who did not wish to see the Pope's plan succeed. They had sent their own delegation to Constantinople to undermine Cusanus. The rival delegation's strategy was simple: to convince the emperor that the Pope could not deliver on his offer of military help, even if it was accepted. Their advice to John VIII was to ignore Cusanus and his mission. It did not make the emperor's decision any easier.
Der Kaiser Johannes VIII. Palaiologos war in einer schwierigen Situation, in einer echten Zwangslage. Er bekam Hilfe gegen die Türken nur, indem er die Union mit dem Westen schloss. Das bedeutete Zugeständnisse, die ein großer Teil seiner Bischöfe und Theologen eigentlich nicht machen wollte. Das heißt, die Gegner überwogen sicherlich, die allenfalls jetzt aus Vernunftgründen mitzogen. Es gab allerdings auch einige, die von Herzen die Union anstrebten, und der berühmteste von ihnen ist Bessarion, der Erzbischof von Nikaia.
For Bessarion, The choice was clear and simple. Constantinople must remain Christian at all costs, and the rift within the church must be healed.
This man gave 8 financial novices $1 million to play the stock market.
I'm taking a huge risk here.
But thanks to the global market meltdown,
this is like proper scary stuff.
A bold experiment turns into a wild ride.
I think you're wrong.
I don't care what you think.
I think it really brings out the bastard in you. And you reach a point where there's a line crossed.
You have to be incredibly resilient.
When you've been kicked in the teeth so many times, you've got no teeth left.
Over 3 weeks, $1 Million Traders. Tuesday, 7:30 on SBS 1.
Hello. At Suncorp Bank, we're opening more branches, adding new ATMs, bringing mobile bankers to you, and giving you easier ways to do banking on your mobile, so you can bank the way you want. Now that's bright banking.
How would you cope if the main income earner in your family couldn't work due to an accident or illness? An income protection plan can help replace their income whilst they're recovering, so you can still pay all the bills. In the past, it's been such a hassle to get. You had to find a broker, set up an appointment, be sent for intrusive medical, complete complex forms, all before you find out you can't afford it. Well, not anymore. There's a faster and much easier way. Go direct to Insurance Line. People aged 18 to 55 and working more than 20 hours per week can apply for income protection over the phone in just minutes. There's no running around, no forms, and generally no medical exams. Just call 13 44 54. It can pay you up to 75% of your monthly income to help meet living expenses and pay the everyday bills. Cover starts from just $2.95 a week, so you'll hardly notice it coming out of your account, and premiums are generally tax deductible, saving you more money to spend on other things. Call 13 44 54 now.
Beyond the city walls, the Ottomans are playing a waiting game. They surround Constantinople, adding to their forces daily. They are in no hurry to attack, hoping that the city will capitulate without the need for a long battle. For even the confident Ottomans respect the ability of Constantinople to withstand attack. It's a city well used to lengthy sieges. Nearly 600 years later, Constantinople's famous walls still stand, marking the limits of the city. Even today, they're carefully maintained. In medieval times, this was the city's most valuable deterrent. Even the Venetian crusaders had not breached them. They had gained entry to the city only when a traitorous insider had opened the gates. The emperor, in 1437, had few resources in his run-down city, but what he did have went into the maintenance of the vital walls. What made the walls so formidable was their design. There was not one wall, but two, with a moat beyond and 98 high towers from which to target an approaching army. With the wall's protective embrace, treasures such as the Kora monastery were oases in the surrounding gloom. As hope for the empire declined, commitment to the religious life increased.
In the last period of the Byzantium, especially in Constantinople, monasteries had increased in number incredibly. Maybe this is because of the hopeless situation of the empire in the last centuries, because all the land in Anatolia was lost. So they had only their religion and their glorious past in their hands to hold strongly, but nothing else.
The Kora monastery walls are thickly decorated with mosaics. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, it was believed that the images of the saints bestowed their real presence. A building such as the Kora, made infinitely holy by the sheer number of its saintly portraits, was indeed a refuge from the stresses of those difficult times. Within the medieval church, the power game that has swallowed the last 700 years moves towards its end game. The original dispute that divides the church, a disagreement over a word in the creed, has been lost in the centuries of bitterness and pride. Now the resolution of the schism has become a matter of life and death for an empire. Tension mounts as the city waits to discover its faith. For Cusanus, the personal stakes are about to get even higher. Cusanus survives the attack, but it's clear that time is running out. The Sarian makes renewed efforts to convince the emperor. But John VIII, only too aware of the developing revolt within his court, still gives no answer. The mighty city's fate hangs by a thread. Will the emperor take the Pope's offer and fight to keep Constantinople Christian? Might his own court then rise up against him? Can the Pope make good his promise of help? And if he does, will it be enough to drive off the Ottoman threat? At last, the agonizing is over. The emperor decides to fight for Christianity. He will accept the Pope's offer. The court is in uproar, but the expected rebellion does not materialize. The rival delegation is rejected.
Das Ergebnis ist, dass das Unionskonzil in Ferrara und dann in Florenz mit dem Papst, mit Eugen IV. Geschlossen wurde und nach über einjähriger Verhandlung die Griechen dann das Unionsdekret unterschrieben, das unter anderem den Primat des Papstes besiegelt. Aber sie taten es offensichtlich mit schlechtem Gewissen und nur unter dem Zwang der Verhältnisse oder unter dem Druck des Kaisers auch. Als sie wieder zurück waren in Konstantinopel, haben die meisten ihre Zustimmung zurückgezogen. Und die Ratifizierung des Unionsdekrets erfolgte im Grunde erst, als die Türken schon vor der Stadtmauer standen. Die Ausnahme war Bessarion. Der blieb im Westen und wurde dort Kardinal der römischen Kirche.
Cusanus' mission is over. It is time to leave Constantinople, taking with him new ideas, new treasures, and, in Bessarion, a new lifelong friend. From here, he will lead the emperor and 28 Orthodox archbishops on their journey to meet the Pope. In the long and successful career that follows, it will be one of his proudest moments. Cusanus had succeeded in his mission. But the reunification he worked so hard to achieve was not a success. The West did send the emperor help, but it was too little and far too late. Constantinople fell to the Ottomans.
Also die Eroberung am 29. Mai 1453 war also der letzte Todesstoß, den die byzantinische Stadt dabei erfuhr. Aber es begann eine neue Blütezeit. Mehmed II. Hat die Stadt zu seiner neuen Hauptstadt gemacht. Er hat sie wieder aufgebaut, er hat sie wieder bevölkert und hat aus ihr eben die Stadt gemacht, die wieder an dieser explodierten Stelle sozusagen in geopolitischer Weise an dieser explodierten Stelle ein Machtzentrum geworden ist, das dann unter den nachfolgenden Sultanen, wie also dem Süleyman, dem großen Süleyman, natürlich dann auch seine Pranken wieder nach allen Seiten ausgestreckt hat.
It was the end of the Christian Empire, but a new beginning for the city. Constantinople, renamed Istanbul, grew once more into a prosperous center for trade and commerce, gradually regaining its reputation as the cosmopolitan heart of the region. Although the Hagia Sophia became a mosque, the great Christian art and architecture of the city was safeguarded. Tolerant of different races and religions, Istanbul became a haven for scholars and artists. The golden city on the Bosphorus, for so long the meeting place between East and West, continues its delicate balancing act to this day.